In the last chapter, we discovered that the catacombs in the Land of Shadow have Godwyn as a theme and contain references to the story of his survival. Could it be that the catacombs in the lands between also have a common theme? There's one thing we find in many of the catacombs, a statue of a hooded woman. The hooded woman can be found at almost all entrances to the heroes' graves and in countless catacombs. Although she also appears on buildings on the surface, the hooded woman seems to be much more closely connected to the catacombs, as that is where she is most commonly found. In Chapter 7, we discovered that the prophecy of Godwyn's resurrection and the burning of the Earth Tree came from a mysterious figure wearing a black hood. Could this be the hooded woman from the catacombs? Let's take another look at the places that have a special connection to the story of Godwyn. Behind the Black Knife assassin in the Black Knife catacombs is the woman with the black hood. In the room with the lightning scorpion charm is the woman with the black hood. In the Church of the Eclipse, behind the altar with the eclipse shoulder, is the woman in the black hood. And in the Chapel of Anticipation, the place where we were resurrected, it is also the woman in the black hood. It appears that the woman in the black hood is behind the events of the Night of the Black Knives. Could Marika be the woman in the black hood? I am still undecided myself and am currently looking for clues to answer this question. So far, I assume that the woman with the black hood is pursuing the same goal as Marika and acting in Marika's interests. Marika and the woman with the black hood are therefore behind the events of the Night of the Black Knives. Of all the catacombs where the woman in the black hood is depicted, the Cliffbottom catacombs are perhaps the most interesting, so let's take a closer look at them. In the Cliffbottom catacombs, there is a special variant of the woman with the black hood. Here, she is holding a book in her hand. This particular variant of the statue can only be found in two specific locations in the entire lands between. The other location is the room with the lightning scorpion charm. These are the only places in the entire lands between where this statue appears. If you take a closer look around the room with the lightning scorpion charm, you will also notice the unusual walls. There are scrolls placed in the walls. These walls are only found in this room. This is the only room in the entire lands between that has walls with scrolls. These details may seem insignificant at first, but the design of these rooms is certainly not random. The statue of the woman with the black hood and a book in her hands symbolizes Marika's plan. Since this is the only room in the lands between with scrolls in the walls, we can assume that they also symbolize Marika's plan. All of this perfectly complements our previous thoughts that the lightning scorpion charm also symbolizes Marika's plan. All of this also reinforces our suspicion that the woman with the black hood is either Marika herself or is acting on her behalf. Now, however, the question arises as to why the other statue of the woman with the black hood and a book is in the Cliffbottom catacombs. The Cliffbottom catacombs not only contain a statue of the woman with the black hood and book, but also the Nox mirror helm. It says, "Helm fashioned from a crystal-looking glass, one among the Eternal City's ritual implements, easily broken and weak against striking attacks. Worn by those committed to high treason, it wards off the intervention of the greater will and its vassal fingers." I always thought it was unusual that the Nox mirror helm was found in one of the catacombs. At first, it makes no sense why it wasn't placed in the Eternal Cities instead. I have discovered the following. The Cliffbottom catacombs are a hub where various clues about Godwyn and the Night of the Black Knives converge. On the one hand, we have the woman with the black hood and book, which leads to the room with the lightning scorpion charm. And on the other hand, we have a room with a Nox mirror helm. In addition, one of the rooms contains a corpse with a rune arc pointing towards a bookshelf. This also appears to be a reference to Marika's plan. Is there more hidden behind the Cliffbottom catacombs? I would like to present a theory to you which unfortunately is not yet complete. However, as I am very convinced of it, I will present it to you nonetheless. I have long wondered why the Nox mirror helm was placed in these catacombs. During my investigations of the catacombs, I noticed that there are rooms that contain conspicuously placed chairs. Some of these rooms don't even contain any item and don't really have any function. So why do they exist? I started investigating all the rooms in the catacombs that contain chairs and came to the following conclusion. I believe that all rooms with a certain number of chairs form a group and are intended to refer to specific events. Discussing every single room would be far too much for this video, especially since I am still in the process of correctly interpreting and understanding all the references. Many catacombs have exactly one room with chairs. However, 2 catacombs have several rooms with chairs and are apparently considered hubs for different groups of chairs and therefore for different events. Interestingly, the Cliffbottom Catacombs are one of them. The Cliffbottom Catacombs have one room with 3 chairs, one with 4, and one with 5. In this video, I will limit myself to the 2 rooms with 3 and 4 chairs, as the room with 5 chairs is linked to references for which we still lack some basic information. So let's take a look at the room with 3 chairs. It is the room with the Nox mirror helm, and actually the only room of all catacombs in the lands between that has 3 chairs. The Nox mirror helm is about betrayal of the greater will and possibly the Night of the Black Knives. The catacombs of the Land of Shadow add another room with 3 chairs. This is located in the Scorpion River catacombs and contains a chest with an ancient Dragon Knight cookbook that the Deathblight eyes pass by. These catacombs also deal with Godwyn's death on the Night of the Black Knives. These both are all rooms with 3 chairs. The group of rooms with 3 chairs apparently form references to Godwyn's death and the Night of the Black Knives. In the Cliffbottom Catacombs, it is the room right next to the one with the Nox mirror helm that contains 4 chairs. In Chapter 7, we have already established that clues and references to Godwyn's survival are closely linked to the number 4. Could it be that in this case too, the rooms with 4 chairs are references to Godwyn's survival? In the room in the Cliffbottom Catacombs that contains 4 chairs, we find the rune arc on a corpse looking at a bookshelf. In addition, an extremely rare symbol is found on a carpet in the same room, which is primarily associated with the church bell in Stormvale. This symbol appears 6 times around the bell. The room with the 4 chairs in the Cliffbottom Catacombs, therefore, forms a reference to Marika's plan for Godwyn's survival. The church bell in Stormvale was supposed to lead the soul of Godwyn as Prince of Death to Stormvale. There are other rooms in other catacombs with 4 chairs that have an interesting design, but I'm not sure how to interpret them yet and I'm still busy deciphering these references. There's also a room with 4 chairs in the Land of Shadow. This is located in the Forkrift Catacombs and contains a catacomb sorcerer standing next to a Graveglove ward. In the last chapter, we already linked the Forkrift Catacombs to Godwyn's survival and resurrection, so a room with 4 chairs fits perfectly with our theory. But what is the catacomb sorcerer standing next to a Graveglove ward referring to? According to the last chapter, the catacomb sorcerer represents a father figure. The Graveglove ward represents a bell that summons the spirits. Could it be that Godwyn's father, Godfrey, had something to do with the church bell in Stormvale and thus Godwyn's survival? Another room with 4 chairs is located in the Impaler Catacombs on Weeping Peninsula. In it, you will find a coffin and 2 statues of roses who leads the dead on their predestined path. Could this room also be a reference to the impaled Godfrey, who may have led Godwyn to Stormvale with the help of the church bell? Finally, I would like to show you the room with 4 chairs in the Tombsword Catacombs. These are the catacombs where, among others, the leader of the Mausoleum Knights can be found. In this room sits a corpse with the prattling pate, "Thank you." and around it is Deathroot, which grows towards the corpse. The tombs-walled catacombs, with a room containing the 4 chairs, is a reference to the grateful Godwyn, whose soul was ultimately brought to safety in the Chapel of Anticipation. The Deathroot growing towards the corpse symbolizes the thorns growing towards the Chapel of Anticipation. These are not only found on the outer wall towards the Chapel of Anticipation, but also partly directly in front of the Chapel of Anticipation, growing towards it. Looking back, we can see that the Cliffbottom Catacombs form a hub for various references to the Night of the Black Knives and Godwyn's survival. The Cliffbottom Catacombs are most closely associated with the woman with the black hood. The Cliffbottom Catacombs contain a room with a statue of the woman with the hood and book, which is otherwise only found in the room with the lightning scorpion charm. In addition, the room with the lightning scorpion charm contains walls with the scrolls. The statue with the book and the walls with the scrolls symbolize the plan of Marika and the woman with the black hood. There's also a room in the Cliffbottom Catacombs that contains the Nox mirror helm. This is associated with the betrayal of the Nox and Eternal Cities to the Greater Will. The room with the Nox mirror helm also contains 3 chairs. The only other room with 3 chairs is a room in the Scorpion River Catacombs. The rooms with 3 chairs seem to be linked to references to the Night of the Black Knives. Furthermore, there is a room in the Cliffbottom Catacombs containing a corpse with a rune arc looking at a bookshelf. In the same room, there is a symbol that is primarily associated with the church bell in Stormvale. The room is a reference to Marika's plan, which is about Godwyn's survival and in which the church bell of Stormvale plays a central role. It was supposed to lead the soul of Godwyn, the Prince of Death, to Stormvale. This room in the Cliffbottom Catacombs also contains 4 chairs. The rooms with the 4 chairs form references to Godwyn's survival. These rooms include a room in the Forkrift Catacombs, with a catacomb sorcerer and a ghost glove ward. This may be a reference to a father and a spirit summoning bell. We also have a room with 4 chairs in the Impaler Catacombs. Here you will find 2 statues of roses who symbolizes the leading of the dead. This could also be a reference to the impaled Godfrey, who helped to lead Godwyn's soul to Stormvale through the church tower bell. The room with the 4 chairs in the Tombs-walled Catacombs contains the prattling pale Thank You and Deathroot, which grows towards the corresponding corpse. This room is a reference to Godwyn's grateful soul, which found refuge in the Chapel of Anticipation and toward which the thorns grow. All these references are connected to the Cliffbottom Catacombs and thus to the woman in the black hood. Last but not least, I noticed something else. The wall with the scrolls symbolizing Marika's plan appears only once more in the Land of Shadow. It is located in the Forkrift Catacombs, in the room with the spirit ashes of Black Knight Commander Andreas, who represents a father figure. So, could Godfrey have actually been involved in the Night of the Black Knives alongside the woman in the black hood? It was common knowledge that Godfrey had been exiled prior to the events of the Night of the Black Knives and had supposedly left the Lands Between with the other Tarnished. In the Rusted Anchor it says, the rusty anchor wielded as a weapon. Each of its 4 flukes is thick and sharp, enabling piercing attacks. While the Tarnished left the Lands Between with their lord, one boat alone was said to have been left behind. So the Tarnished have supposedly left the Lands Between with their lord. However, one boat has been left behind. Godfrey's blue cape reminds me of the following item of clothing. Navy hood. A hooded cloak of deep navy, worn by expatriated royalty. Such cloaks were gifted to those who departed on missions to faraway lands from which they would never return. But what choice did they have, having seen the guidance of grace? Could it be that Godfrey unknowingly did not leave the Lands Between after all and later became part of Marika's and the woman with the black hood's plan?